Who are the Ad Watchers? We are attorneys at the National Advertising Division of BBB National Programs, a team with over 50 years of experience investigating and resolving disputes over the accuracy of national advertising campaigns.
We don't just take ads at face value. We put them to the test. Why? Because advertising law can be simple, but it's the execution that's hard. Welcome to Ad Watchers, NAD's podcast that gives a view into how our organization reviews claims and applies advertising law. If you missed any of our previous episodes, don't forget to check them out later. They are available wherever you are listening to this. So, Eric, what are we talking about today?
Well, Annie, last episode we mentioned that we would be revisiting some topics we've discussed in past episodes. We're going to revisit a topic from season 1, and also we touched a little upon last week, and that's consumer reviews. We're going to talk a little bit more about what NAD has been up to with respect to consumer reviews. They overlap somewhat with endorsements and testimonials that we talked about last episode, but in today's world, consumer reviews have taken a life of their own in some ways, and we thought we should give a little bit of a deeper dive into what NAD has been up to concerning consumer reviews. Annie, have you ever left a review of a product?
I think a few times, but normally I don't, but I definitely read them. Definitely for clothing, right? I want to make sure if people say, yeah, this is an actual, it's the sizing is runs pretty close to what is mentioned, or it runs small or large, right? So I don't have to return something. But I think I think everybody looks at reviews before they're purchasing something, especially if it's a larger ticket item, to see if there are any flaws or glitches. How about you?
No, I never have, but I was wondering, who was leaving those reviews under NAD Annie 675, but now
it's not me.
No, okay. No, but I've never personally left a review, but like most consumers these days, I'm really paying attention to them, and especially with big ticket items, making sure we see what's out there, because consumers definitely pay attention to the quantity and quality of reviews out there, and I think they've become such an important part of our world today. So Annie, what are some recent NAD cases that we haven't talked about on the podcast before that touch on consumer reviews?
Sure. So one case concerned the pros hair care product reviews. This was a challenge that was brought by Function, and it concerned Pro's use of product reviews in a Fast Track Swift challenge, including that it only published select 5-star featured reviews on its website, while also claiming that it has over 192,000 5-star product reviews. The express claim was based on the advertiser's review and refine process, which allows the advertiser to reformulate a product based on consumer feedback. We determined that the evidence in the record showed that it was insufficient to support the over 192,000 5-star product reviews claim, and we recommended that it be discontinued because they didn't provide any information on how the reviews were collected as part of the survey process. But we noted that the review and refine experience should be part of any claim going forward that touted 5-star reviews, so that consumers would understand that it was about the level of consumer satisfaction with their initial product purchase of the product, and that they had to have independent evidence to support any product performance claims if they touted as part of reviews that were promoted in testimonials. So then we received a compliance inquiry, and the advertiser petitioned to reopen the case. And so the claim that we were looking at, and we agreed to do so, we looked at a 225,000 five-star product review claim. And so in the reopened case, we determined that Prose's solicitation of the reviews was neutral from verified users who had no incentivization in exchange for the review. The advertiser instituted mechanisms to ensure that the reviews were properly collected and assessed. We couldn't get into it too much because the information was provided confidentially. As for the survey design, we found that it was reliable. They asked the overall satisfaction question first and in a neutral manner. But we recommended that the advertiser make some changes. First, that they clearly disclose that the star ratings were counted on a per product and not per order basis, and that the number of five-star reviews included five-star reviews of reordered products which initially received five-star reviews. We also concluded that the inclusion of only positive reviews on the advertiser's website was not misleading because Prose demonstrated that most of the reviews were, in fact, 4 and 5 star reviews. They reflected the typical consumer experience. Now, if that had been different, right, if they had put only 4 and 5 star reviews and most of the reviews had been neutral or negative, then that would be misleading. But that was not the case here. Now, speaking of the representativeness of reviews, this was an issue raised in another case in the My Patriot Supply matter. And the challenger there took issue with what it thought were inflated reviews on the advertiser's website. So over 90% 5 star reviews for many of its survival kits, as compared to lower reviews on third-party sites like Amazon.com. There was also an issue about 2 reviews on Trustpilot where the purchasers complained that their reviews had been deleted by the advertiser. So My Patriot Supply explained that the reviews on its website were authentic. They were from verified purchasers. And the only reviews that were removed, whether positive or negative, are those that include offensive language, which violate their policies. So they basically said, look, we apply that across the board. So there's nothing inappropriate here. Now, as for the reviews of products on Amazon.com, those products were, they said, from unauthorized resellers who might be selling outdated or inferior products over which they had no control. So as a result, those reviews were not representative, and they don't undermine the veracity of the reviews on the My Patriot Supply website. And as for the 2 reviews that were identified on Trustpilot, only one was identified as an actual customer. And there was no evidence that they tried to actually post that on the My Patriot Supply website. So NAD did not take issue with the reviews and the advertiser's practices, but they reiterated that the advertiser post all reviews on its website subject to its own policy to remove any reviews with vulgar or offensive language. So, Eric, do you want to talk about some other cases?
Sure. And I think this is a good time to point out something that the FTC put in its recent guidance, its recent update to the endorsement and testimonials guides, which says that advertisers should not take actions that have the effect of distorting or otherwise misrepresenting what consumers think of their products, regardless of whether the reviews are considered endorsements under the guides. And a good practical application of that came up in a recent case. We actually mentioned it in our last episode on endorsements and testimonials. And that's the Goose Creek candle case. One of the issues there had to do with the reviews that were posted on the advertiser's website. And it came up in the case that the advertiser had a practice of, so it posted the reviews on its site, and it said that they were, it posted all reviews except that it used filtering software to take out reviews that had irrelevant or misleading information. And what they said was that this would be reviews that weren't about the product. So they scrubbed for irrelevant or misleading information, and that was those were reviews that were not about the product actually there being displayed. So they said they had this scrubbing software that took care of that, and that was in addition to removing offensive material. Which, if you're posting every single review and putting that on your website, you can still hold that out there, hold the reviews out there as being representative if you are taking offensive material out there and removing that so consumers aren't seeing that. And NAD said that this scrubbing of what was considered irrelevant or misleading information was acceptable. Um, However, it still had to be shown that it wasn't taking out bona fide reviews that were actually about the product. But what the advertiser did show was that it was neutral. The scrubbing was not neutral. It left positive reviews as well as negative reviews. So that was acceptable and could be a good practice. I also want to mention that the reviews were incentivized, and NAD recommended that they do disclose that that the reviews were based on the provision of a free gift. That's an important principle that comes up whenever an advertiser wants to use reviews. It has to be disclosed if an incentive for the review was provided. And then switching gears just a little bit and I think this case illustrates how even bona fide reviews, that is reviews where the consumer actually purchased and used the product, and even where if an incentive was provided, that incentive was disclosed, even where there are some things to be concerned about and make sure they're not being used in a misleading way. We had the Best Company case. And this website held itself out as an honest and unbiased site that um, gave rankings of products in different industries. And at issue in the case were rankings of companies that were in the teeth aligner business. Um, and Best Company worked with some companies in the industry to help them solicit reviews, but not all companies. And one of the things that affected their rankings was the number of reviews given about the product. So even if these reviews were bona fide, NAD said that there was still a problem because even an independent and impartial ranking based on bona fide reviews should be based on reviews that are representative of the universe of the reviews for the companies being ranked. So having a ranking based on reviews, you needed to make sure that it represented all brands fairly if it was being held out as something truly independent and representative. Also, that there was a relationship here between the some of the brands and the company helping them solicit reviews. So those were important factors in making sure that uh, everything was being presented accurately to consumers.
So another case that I thought I'd mention is the Fertility Smart case, and this was an NAD monitoring case and concerned a supplement that claimed to enhance a woman's ability to conceive. The advertiser agreed to discontinue all of the challenge claims, which included testimonials from women who were touting that they were able to get pregnant after they used Fertility Smart. So we later opened a compliance inquiry because we saw similar testimonials on the advertiser's website. During the inquiry, the advertiser provided revised testimonials, which it believed were more muted, and did not convey that Fertility Smart was responsible for a woman getting pregnant. But we nonetheless found that that was reasonably being conveyed from the testimonials. And we actually referred to the FTC's testimonials and endorsements guide. And as Eric pointed it out earlier, it warns against advertisers editing reviews that would otherwise misrepresent consumers' views of the product. So we caution the advertiser to be mindful of those guides and ensure that any testimonials going forward do not state or imply that users will become pregnant as a result of taking Fertility Smart. So Eric, do you want to touch on the Dr. Squatch case?
Sure, Annie. And so we'll end up with our last case here, which is an example of an advertiser using a review it was given by a consumer in advertising and repurposed for making a particular claim. Here, Dr. Squatch makes male personal care products, and they used in social media advertising that arose out of a consumer review where it said the product doesn't burn my armpits or leave me with rank BO midday. And then additional advertising saying that it blocks out BO without harsh chemicals. Now, NAD looked at that claim as it would any claim that was made entirely by the advertiser and found that it did not convey a comparative message about competing products saying that it's harmful, that they're harmful. Um, so that's what NAD still going to review anything that comes out of a consumer review and is repurposed by the advertiser. Here, there wasn't a misleading message found or something that was unsupported being claimed, but NAD did take this opportunity just to remind advertisers in general that even though there wasn't a comparative superiority message here, and consumers may not make claims through consumer testimonials that could not be substantiated if made directly by the advertiser. Um, to the extent any advertiser wants to use consumer reviews that communicate a typicality message, it is responsible, an advertiser is responsible for providing adequate substantiation for the claims reasonably communicated. So, Annie, I think that's it for today. But before we go, let's leave a few tips for our listeners.
Yes. So one tip is to be mindful of how reviews are collected and counted when you're basing claims on them. So you don't necessarily need a traditional survey or other method, but you do have to make sure that they're reliably collected. So, for example, make sure that you're not double posting reviews on multiple platforms. Make sure that reviews are representative of the target population and that these are verified purchasers of the products.
And it's always important that any incentives given for a review be disclosed. Brands still sometimes fail to do this. This is a fundamental that NAD has and the FTC have reminded advertisers that they must disclose that any reviews are incentivized.
And lastly, star reviews are very impactful. and they should be representative of the actual universe of reviews collected or posted. So don't inflate 4 and 5 star reviews. These can't be if they are the outlier results and you are posting only those results, then you are misleading consumers, right? Just be mindful of what the universe of reviews are and make sure that it's a representative sampling of the reviews so that consumers are not misled.
Thank you again for tuning in to this episode of Ad Watchers. We hope you enjoyed our conversation today.
Join us next month for another episode of the Ad Watchers. As always, you can head over to our website, bbbprograms.org, to learn more about what we do at the National Advertising Division or any of our other self-regulatory programs. That's all for this episode. See you next time. Thanks again for tuning into Ad Watchers. Be sure to check out our previous episodes at accountabilitystudio.org, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe to get notified about our next episode. Until then, leave us a review and let us know what you would like to hear from us this season.